Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is another episode of the Web3 Game Development live stream. We are live today with my intrepid producer, Oscar. Oscar, thanks for supporting me. And Jack from Win Win is on a secret mission in Asia, so he cannot make it today, but he will be back next week when we broadcast live from ETH Denver. Today, I am joined by Tom Copera. I hope I pronounced your name right.
Yeah, correct, sir.
Thanks, Tom. Tom is with Olympics. We're going to be talking about a few things that I think are top of mind for anybody who is in Web3 game development right now. So, number one, the competitive gaming ecosystem in Web3 gaming. Two, Telegram games, probably the most significant thing that's driven user adoption just in the last few months. And then we're going to talk about the chain, Ton, and everything happening there. We'll even talk about some of the newsworthy events around which chain or chains you're allowed to use on Telegram games. So we're going to cover it all. So if you're a Web3 game developer, you are watching the right live stream right now, because this is the place where you come to learn about the trends that affect you as a developer, building games, building products that are going to penetrate this ecosystem. I'm John Radoff. I'm the CEO of a company called Beamable. We are a back-end live infrastructure company. We help you build and scale your game in the cloud. So let's get started and dive right in. Tom, let's begin with competitive gaming, but let's learn a little bit about yourself first. Tom, can you just kind of introduce yourself to the audience here?
Oh,
How'd you get into this?
oh yeah, then yeah, I can do it, obviously. So just, briefly about myself. Prior to joining crypto, I've been building in infrastructure projects, in more like multi-level marketing environment, on a global scale, more than 40 different countries. I've been builder by heart, my entire life. And then at some point I joined crypto. It was 2020. And then again jumped into built out one of the biggest conference format in Central Eastern Europe called Next Block Expo, and that's how I actually met the founders of Olympics. That's how we embarked on the journey together, and that's how we're building again infrastructure project, but for the different domain, which is competitive gaming, or in overall gaming. I will cover that how competitive gaming is booming and becoming a driving force for the future of gaming. But that's for the latest part of the show. But that's me, myself, and I briefly.
Well, let's drill in a little bit more to competitive gaming. So, if I think about the overall gaming ecosystem and I use the term competitive gaming, I think of everything from esports leagues, that side of things. There's also a whole skill-based gaming market within traditional gaming. Um, let's hear your definition just to begin
Yeah.
there.
So I think I will start even like way more in the past. So let's
Okay.
look at the arcade bars, and let's imagine, we are this social community that is getting into the bar and observing, the leaderboards and all these machines. That's the early days of competitive games. That's the vibe. And there's a reason why I'm starting there, because actually this type of experience was competitive gaming in its pure form, which is not only about the competition itself, but also about the social experience, like bringing people together and actually focusing on, on the fun within that game. And there is a competitive aspect that is inherent in our human nature. We are competitive by design, but that's how it all started, and then it got digitalized, so to say, right? So we have these first competitive games like Pong and whatsoever, and then we accelerated, and with the like the rise and born of the game engines like Unity as an example, these experiences getting more and more advanced, so to say. Then eventually it led to creation of multiplayer games, and then it all evolved and get professionalized around esports. But then this kind of experience was accessible and it was rewarding, basically like top 0.1% of people that trained their skills to the maximum level. It's more about few people competing and the rest watching them, so to say. And then we obviously got into the skill gaming overall as a type of gaming. And then we started to understand that the skill gaming might be even, twisted with the wagering, with the real money gaming as kind of a branch here. That stands for a really cool monetization model, by the way, for game developers. I can elaborate on that for hours, and I will a bit at least during the show. And then we ended up, I would call it today, and like today, starting from today in the future, where the exact experience between overlap of esports and the emotions given with the arcade bars is supercharged with blockchain technology, is like democratized and given to people on the silver platter and served through the social messaging apps like, for example, Telegram. This
Mhm.
is where the future of competitive gaming is getting born in front of our eyes, and this is a massive opportunity.
Okay, there's so much to unpack there. I think we could spend multiple hours just
Oh
breaking
yeah.
down everything you just said. But let's start with this from a game developer standpoint. So imagine I'm a studio making a new game and I want to bring competitive gaming into my game. Historically, the challenge has been things like getting enough scale, getting enough people really interested in that aspect of things. Sometimes game studios get kind of obsessed with the element of the sort of native esports aspect of their game before making the game itself fun enough to attract those audiences. So in traditional gaming, it has been really challenging. I'd love to hear from your standpoint, again, thinking from the standpoint of game developers, why would you want to incorporate a competitive gaming aspect into your game? And then how do you do it? How can you be successful
Yeah.
at it? And then the third part, if you can remember this deep of an unpack, is like, but then what why Web3? Why is Web3 potentially an ecosystem where this could be even more successful than it was in the past?
That's for sure. Yeah, for sure. That's my favorite topic, frankly speaking. And let me start. Like, if you were to ask me about the elevator pitch about Olympics, I would say we are an infrastructure that is abstracting away all the complexity of building multiplayer games and blockchain transaction in gaming. And we do it in a kind of we roll it up those complexities into a set of simple to use SDKs that are enabling the creation of a transparent, verifiable environment for competitive gaming with use of blockchain, right? And
Mm-hmm.
based on that, developers can start building like completely new economic models for gaming. I know it sounds pretty complex, but there's a reason why I started with that. Because if I were to unpack now what I meant and like break it down around all these complexities and then responding to the questions why it's even worth to do it, I will start with the end in mind. So let's start with why even to tap into the opportunity. That's absolutely the first question, even prior to the fact, hey, I decide to do it. I need to have like solid answer to why. So the landscape today is following. Like there are hundreds of thousands, millions, I would say estimated 2 million, at least Unity game developers, right? Out there in the market. And like most of these guys, especially in mobile games domain, they are sitting on the sidelines of, hey, we can no longer effectively monetize our games, at least in the free to play and ad-based monetization, due to different changes in regulation, is getting harder and harder to actually effectively run a business. And there's a reason why you have like a lot of layoffs in public and public whatsoever. So the industry is in a sort of say, maybe I wouldn't use the word crisis, but a transformation period, right? So there's a search mode for the new monetization models. And then when you study carefully the real money gaming, so just for the definition, you have skill-based games with the money wagering between people. So to say, like imagine like a poker room between us, and we invite our friends and we have a competition. Anyone can jump in, pay into the game. There's a dynamically growing prize pool that is distributed towards the winners. It has nothing to do with gambling. It's skill games only. But then this part of being financially involved makes it even more engaging, etc. So when you study the results, I mean, in a couple of platforms, I can quote some numbers from skills.com. Is a very much Web2 platform. I'm going to refer to that in a second, how that translates to the opportunity in Web3. But if you look at this, you clearly understand that it's at least 10x better monetization in ad-based gaming. Monthly active user is worth like more than $10 for paid user, more than $60. It's crazy. I mean, never, you haven't seen that numbers other than here. So it's clearly like very lucrative opportunity for game developers. But here is the trick: like in order to build a multiplayer game, and think of like, hey, you're in the studio, a couple of people. First of all, you do not have the resources to do it because it's very complicated thing. Starting with the networking of environment, synchronizing all of that, anti-fraud, anti-cheat systems, running the server authority, like all of that stuff. If you want to do it properly, you're not able to do it. Period. Like I mean, there's no money that it's just not doable. So it's not accessible to majority of the studios. It's for a reason why these esports style games are built for the bigger studios, right? And here's the first thing that we resolved. Like we focused on simplifying the process without the compromise on security, on quality of that. Every single game built on our SDK is like a fully functional multiplayer. It's secured on the esports level. It's having all these anti-frost, anti-cheat system, matchmaking, all streamlined into one infrastructure, one SDK. And then it's run on a decentralized game hosting network. There's a lot of beauty here. I mean, I'm excited for it, but just it translates to the value that is unlocking the opportunity on building these games towards like millions of developers, to any developer on planet Earth without much of an experience in multiplayer gaming at all. And we tested that. It's not like I'm having like a bold statement. Let's see if it works. No, we tested that. We run through it. It works. We have it. Like we have success stories whatsoever. And that's first thing, right? And then imagine again, you are at the studio and someone is pitching like, hey, this is the monetization opportunity. And by the way, to use it, you need to do blockchain thing related. Oh my god, like most of the developers out there are no blockchain NFTs. Come on, guys, like let's drop it. So first to understand what blockchain brings as the enabler, as the added value, or as actually really making this opportunity prominent. Alternatives are without the blockchain. Even if you build such a game, you need to go through centralized platforms. They may want to allow you to publish, or they may not to allow you. That's one thing. Then these
Mhm.
platforms are having this whole onboarding journey of users creating the account, onboarding fiats, withdrawing. It's horrible, right? So it's like this type of experience for game developers is, I would call it suboptimal, but frankly speaking, it's leaving a lot of developers out there on the sidelines. Like with the use of blockchain as the payment rails towards distributing these rewards and payments in pay-ins, payouts, on blockchain in a transparent way, verifiable, very fast, very reliable, without the need of building this financial infrastructure yourself as developer.
Mhm.
This suddenly becomes an opportunity for everyone. And that's where the big fun begins, because that's what is empowering like millions of builders in these studios to start building experiences that are, and now I'm making a loop to the arcade bars, that are designed with the pure fun in mind and are not disturbing players with these annoying ads, right?
Mhm.
And are not these type of experiences that are extracting value from blockchain ecosystems. So I'm not talking about play to earns, tap to earns, everything that is related to the all of these Ponzinomics and all of these like rewards driven thing, reward in a sense of extracting value from the ecosystem. So it's a solid business, sustainable revenue model. It's like accessible for everyone. With use of blockchain, everyone can jump to the opportunity. And then
Mhm.
if you add to the mix the distribution channels like Telegram, like all of a sudden you have a completely new segment of gaming accessible within one click for everyone, for players. It's beautifully designed, distributed on mobiles via social messaging apps. It is amazing thing, I believe.
Okay, I want to come back to Telegram in particular, but before I come to that, and I also have other questions about Web3 or blockchain generally as an implementation technology for competitive gaming. I want to remind our audience, and it's growing here, a whole bunch of people are showing up watching the stream. That's awesome. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us. Today, we're talking about competitive gaming, Web3 protocol for implementing competitive gaming. We're also going to talk about Telegram and Ton and new distribution mechanisms for games of all kinds. That's the topic. But I want to remind you all that this is your live stream. You can join this as well. So if you've got a question, post it in the comments. We're monitoring LinkedIn and X and YouTube and Facebook. So we're on multiple platforms here. You can post a comment and Tom and I can discuss it. But in addition to that, you could even join the live stream. So if you've got a camera and you have a topic that you think would be interesting to game developers, this is actually a live dynamic studio environment where we can bring you right in. So Oscar can send you the link to join us on StreamYard. If you'd like to join us, just post a comment, let Oscar know. He'll bring you right in. You can join in the conversation. It could be about any of the topics we're covering today. It could be any other topic that you think is important to cover today. So as long as it's Web3, because this is the Web3 game development live stream. All right. So Tom, you were just going through a few reasons why blockchain is the right platform for competitive gaming. So I heard a few things from you. I heard, first of all, the permissionlessness of it. So a lot of the platforms that currently do game distribution have varying opinions on things like skill-based gaming, for example, where they may or may not let you participate, or for that matter, they might allow it today and they could change it tomorrow. You never really know what happens with a centralized platform. So you pointed at the permissionlessness of it. You pointed at another one as well, which I think is often a very underestimated piece, which is, yes, there are other technically feasible solutions to this problem if you're going to invest millions and millions and millions of dollars building up your whole financial ecosystem to even enable this. It's not really practical for a startup company. It's not even that practical for scaled out game publishers.
Yeah.
Why do that when the technology exists to do it? There's one thing you didn't get to, though, which I'm curious about, which is also with competitive gaming, the ability for the audience to trust it depends on really knowing what's going on and accurate records and transparency. And of course,
Yeah.
blockchain gives us totally transparent records into everything that's ever happened in
Yeah.
terms of every competitive result. Like, I would think that that is sort of, to me, that's the
It
killer
is.
application of blockchain for
It
this.
is. It is. There are a couple of more. So if you want me to kind of pull out some
Yeah.
more use cases here, I will comment on that. That for sure, like transparency and verifiability of these things is crucial and it's important. Up to the extent that we came out with this technology that we call in-game oracle. So to say,
Mm.
like, think of it as because we do all, the server authority hosting, there is like a referee to every single match that happens on our network that is hosting these game sessions and is tracing every single intent of every single move because the games are deterministic. And then in the end, is delivering in a safe way, a secure way, the result of the game. It's like we call it proof of game. It's going to roll up of the entire game session, cryptographically hashed, delivered to blockchain, and then that's what triggers actually the settlement of payments, right? But what
Mhm.
it allows us to build different use cases. We as Olympics are the open data protocol, so it means that if at any point in time, either us or someone else want to build like the explorer of all the game sessions that happen, from the UI perspective, is perfectly usable, right? So the traceability thing is important because you can track all the matches of your opponent or someone, your friend whatsoever. It's blinking like the ultimate level of transparency, and this is something that is highly important and it's highly underestimated. And that's one of the use cases. But let me expand your imagination even further. Like one of these ideas around competitive gaming is that, hey, we want to enable the competitions at scale. Like myself being here in Warsaw, I want to compete with you at your location, right? What is important here are obviously latency, pings, all of that stuff, right? So you may think that the centralized providers of hosting are covering the entire world. It's not the case. Like people in a lot of different destinations, so to say, and locations are cut off from this experience. And what we are bringing together here is like in the latest stages of the project is we are building, I believe, like the biggest decentralized game hosting network. I will be aggregating, multiple different providers of decentralized GPUs for the
Hmm.
sake of building this verifiable hosting for competitive gaming. And it's important because with the use of blockchain, you can properly reward node operators. You can aggregate like smaller hosting, companies to deploy their unused resources. And this is like a very tangible use case that is increasing the accessibility within players, right? And so we will be covering like more than it is covered globally in terms of the world is covered in case of the access to the experience. And if that's not enough for blockchain use cases here, let me open like another one. So there is this entire AI hype, and people are thinking like, hey, what AI can bring to gaming? So a lot of use cases out there around tailored experiences generated by AI. There's a lot of stuff to be said, but let's refocus on competitive gaming. So what we are building, since we are the network and we store like a lot of data about every single intent of every single move of players within every single game sessions, we can create this environment for agents. Let's call it like cyber arena for agents to start competing against each other. They cannot be mixed and matched with humans. That's why I'm saying it's separate, But then agents can start generating revenue out of competitive gaming. They can start being trained with the amount of data that is out there, being fueled for training purposes. That's what we can, generate as additional revenue for node operators in an entire network. Another feature here is that we are building a spectator mode for game sessions. Again, agents can get trained. So you can think of it in the future that there will be like two interfaces, one that we all know for humans, and then there's another one for bots, and that can be a foundation for the agentic economy. I'm just saying, right? As probably something like that will happen, and we are, designed for that to accelerate.
Tom, tell me about the agentic economy. Like, are we just going to be like, we'll be off the internet in the future and our bots will just be doing everything on the internet? We
No,
won't do
no.
anything anymore?
So just just to stay aligned, within some level of sanity is, there will be a space for humans, right? And there will be a space for agents. And now let's think of it this way. Like our role is to really quickly learn who the agent is and absolutely flag and remove any attempts of agents joining the human space for competitions. More to that, by agents competitions, our algorithms are getting trained more and more into the detection of frauds, even that might be imitated by humans. But then, think of it this way: on the top level perspective, participants of the competitions, be like, leaderboard based tournaments, they can earn money. So then this way, agents can earn money. That's one thing. But then, we are implementing now these, we call it a tournament royalties, where the creator of the tournament, which just for the
Hmm.
record, anyone can tap into any game built on our SDK, do it through Telegram or browser whatsoever, and they can easily create like a tournament at any point in time, and any currency as a token can be implemented as gaming currency inside. So it's like, it's really like a huge enabler here. So if we start rewarding that with the creators of the tournament with the fee being a percentage of the total prize pool, then agents can start organizing tournaments for other agents. You know where I'm heading? Like it's, this entire economy based in competitive gaming with the use of blockchain technology, with the use of all of that we built out, it can be reality anytime soon.
I love what you were just talking about, though, in terms of people can launch their own tournaments. Essentially, you're talking about a form of composability. So take your platform and the
Yeah.
ability to create tournament structures. What you're doing is you're making it so that, in addition to game studios and, say, an esports organization operating their own tournament structures, you could actually make it community owned. So a guild, for
Yes. Oh,
example,
yes.
could operate their own tournament, right? That's really interesting. I'll tell you one of my own personal experiences. So between two startups that I was running when I was basically taking a few years doing nothing but playing online games all day every day. I was playing Guild Wars. So now there's Guild Wars 2, but I was playing the original Guild Wars and I became a very competitive gamer in that. And they would only run a tournament like every few months, and we were like, that's not enough. We just have to organize our own tournaments. So we actually did this, and it was a lot of work to organize our own tournaments. We had to do everything from like figuring out the matchmaking and the hierarchy. There weren't any prizes or anything. We were just doing it for fun, by the way. But you're talking about maybe if you existed at the time that I was doing that, and if Guild Wars had adopted the protocol, I could have just kind of launched my own tournament series online.
One click,
And
within one click, right? This is the thing,
yeah.
right? So basically in practice, how it works is like you're accessing any of these games built out in protocol, and then you hit like, create a challenge, and you may select between casual or competitive. Casual is without any money competition. Competitive
Mm-hmm.
means there is
Mm-hmm.
a stake into it, and you are defining like how long does it take? Is it an hour, 3 hours, 6 hours, 12 or 24? Like what's the
Mm-hmm.
sort of entry fee? In what coin, what amount, etc. And then what's the distribution of rewards scheme works like? Is it like winner takes all? Is it like, the podium or top 10? This is like just to begin with, because there's so many different ways how we can implement the variation of it. We believe it's just the beginning. We believe we are like empowering gaming ecosystem, similarly the way how, Apple empowered within the, in-app purchases. And then who knows how it's going to evolve, right? It's going to be a lot of, applications here and there within these monetization models. But getting back to this example, and then you start inviting friends, right? So you start sending out the links, and that's how you can do it. And then there are multiple different use cases. Like yes, it is a foundation of community driven gaming. So that's how you can build relationship as a developer with your community. You are empowering them to start having fun the way they want. It's tailored to their needs, so they can configure that. Same time, if you decide as a developer that these tournaments run on your game, could be the revenue out of it could be split it with the tournament organizer. They have additional incentives, like financial incentives that is sell at the end of the game session or the tournament, and so they can profit from that. This is like it hasn't been available before. It's not possible
Mhm.
without. I mean, maybe it's possible, but it's not so easy to do it without blockchain technology. So this is an innovation that we are bringing to the market at a large scale. And it's just to give you a glimpse of understanding how it can evolve. It's not only about users doing it, but then publishers. They can easily test out a game prior to like full publishing. Hey, let's just organize a tournament or two and to see how it goes. I will give you a beautiful example from this week. Like, so we onboarded to the collaboration a platform called OnTon, which is an event platform on Ton ecosystem and Telegram. That might lead our discussion to Ton and Telegram, so
Yep.
to say. But OnTon is, or so far up to date, that has been serving the entire ecosystem with the platform for organizing events, booking tickets, like all of these side events, all these major events at Ton ecosystem. We run through it. So it's a lot of people actually interacting with the platform. But here's the problem: how to monetize the platform. And then the founders started to think like, hey, maybe we're gonna kind of evolve a little bit and start using the existing community, everything that we built out, to hosting and online events. What could be an online event? Basically anything. So you can link something there. So why not hosting tournaments? Boom! They started to do it from Monday, and then some of these tournaments they collect like almost 400 people at a time, right? Can you believe it? So this
Mhm.
is like another perspective and use case of this freedom, of this permissionless approach, not only to building games but also to throwing tournaments. We are as open as possible.
Let's broaden the conversation to Telegram because I think that's a good segue. And we told everyone we're going to talk about Telegram today. So we've been talking about competitive gaming. Once again, if you want to join this conversation, post a comment. We'll bring you in live right to the platform. You can be about Telegram, ton, competitive gaming, anything in Web3 game development. Really, join us, or just post your comments and we'll talk about those. But Telegram. So people have been talking about Telegram for months now around Web3 gaming. For a moment there, it felt like almost like, I don't know, some of our audience may not have been around quite so long, but like the Facebook gaming moment where like web-based gaming was very niche. And then all of a sudden, Facebook had Canvas games, and almost overnight, it was hundreds of millions of players playing games on Facebook, and it opened up this whole new audience. People were kind of talking about Telegram gaming as being almost that Facebook moment around
Yeah.
Web3. What first of all, what's your thoughts on that? Why Telegram? Was it the Facebook moment? Like what's happening
Mhm.
there?
Yeah, it's I should say it's still happening. But yeah, let me give you my perspective here. So first of all, like why Telegram? As much as maybe app stores is of this world are like a kind of bad actor in terms of being friendly with blockchain. Telegram is obviously friendly, so it's an environment where Web3 games can thrive easily, right? So that's like a primary example. Plus, the user base is large enough for the industry to believe in the story, right? So it can hype substantial amount of people, and in the end of the day, there's like a decent distribution channel that is untapped so far by the publisher. That's one thing to emphasize. That it's like a both good and bad situation. Like bad is because it's not enough skilled professionals to drive traffic meaningful way. But good, it's like because this opportunity is still in front of us. That's sort of this approach. But let's chase like what actually happened within Telegram and gaming there. So they basically leveraged the concept of idle games. We had a boom in gaming for idle games like 8 9 years ago,
Mhm.
and they just revamped it a little bit, and they leveraged these characteristics of Web3 audience that are driven by the vision of being rewarded, right? So what happened eventually, and we anticipated that. We were very loud and about it. We even had some internal discussion. Hey, shall we now build a clicker game just for the sake of marketing? And we said, no, let's not do it. I was like a really strong voice inside the team. And then we kept building. So, what ended up in this story is idle games became a vehicle to, let's say, onboard people to Web3 gaming, but most of these games were not even transaction within blockchain, right? They were only a gateway to get people's attention. That was all about attention marketing. And these people eventually got, so to say, disappointed with the amount of time that they traded versus the amount of money they got from the airdrops. But look again what happened, like from the moment of Notcoin and then Hamster Combat and then Catizen and all others that followed. What I like to see there is that there was these, not so to say copy, but following the pursuit of success. So a lot of builders jumped in. So there was an example, and then others jumped in. The end game was as it was, but we were almost smiling as you, John, just a couple of seconds ago, because we knew that the moment for PvP comes, because it's obvious. I mean, what people want in the long run. They want to have sustainability. If they want, even if they don't express it, they want to have like this environment where they can jump in at any point in time, get rewarded without, this fake promises, right? Plus, what chains want? They want transactions, they want volumes, they want new wallets, they want real adoption. Competitive gaming is a perfect fit. It's not easy to do though on the tech side. That's our mission to enable that. And now we land as, I believe, the core gaming infrastructure for the next wave of gaming on Telegram that is actually coming, and it's coming strong. I can tell you that. I know it's from multiple, different angles. Even talking to all of these builders like Notcoins, Carizens, I remember my discussions back then, a year ago, asked by, asking them for the retention was not the right question. But then now I know that they are rebuilding their strategies. And frankly speaking, I'll be bold about it. They have no choice, right? And the chain itself, it needs to get the attention into something meaningful to kind of, bring back the liquidity, to bring back the spotlight. There has been decline in the sentiment. I will be very politically correct here. At the same time, they announced these exclusivity.
Mm.
So what is needed now is like, when there is a dark, someone needs to spark the fire, right? And this fire is about to become PvP gaming and competitive gaming. And I can talk about it for hours, but this is the time to shine. And this is a perfect setup for people to access it through Telegram. This is a perfect setup to start building because it's so easy. Just, 2 4 weeks and you've got a game and you've got it secure. You've got it up and running. It's so easy. Like with our infra, you don't even need to understand how to build your own Telegram bot. You just deploy the game and bot is automatically generated for you. And that it's that easy. I know it's hard to believe it's that easy, right? Yeah, sorry, I'm just getting excited.
Yeah, so Hamster Combat is, I mean, if you were around at the time of Facebook gaming, it will really kind of remind you of those early days because, of course, if you're like a hardcore gamer, meaning like, I don't know, you play Diablo or Call of Duty or something, you'll be like, what is this crap? Like this makes no sense to me. It's helpful at that point in time to remember a few things. One, gaming is a huge market. We're talking about billions of people. It isn't only like Call of Duty playing.
Yeah.
Um, Second, like, yeah, it's similar to Facebook in that these games are kind of simple, lighthearted, very socially engaging. So there's just sort of a fun factor there in being part of it. And yeah, they're not like super graphically immersive 3D shooters or anything like that, but people are playing them. And the other similarity to Facebook is some of these things are getting to scale and they're making money. So, like, they're no longer the games that are just sort of like, hey, waiting for a big audience and waiting for monetization to occur. Like, some of these games have actually made fairly significant revenue in a short period of time. So that shouldn't be forgotten either. So if you're a game developer and like Tom was just saying, like you want to make a game in a few weeks, like Telegram is not a bad place to launch a game that you put a few weeks of your life into. I mean, some of those games have made like over $100 million of cash. So like it's been significant in terms of the upside.
I need to comment on that properly, just to put it in perspective, because
Yep.
like the cash that was made on these games, obviously there could have been some streams around ad based, could have been, but what
Mhm.
happened in between, when it started and now, was a lot of reselling of the traffic to other games. So the
Mhm.
primary business model was organizing campaigns to all sorts of different protocols and apps and other games that needed the attention. So the one that attracted a lot of attention could resell substantial amount of traffic. And I think I don't like basically this kind of approach here, because it created a bubble. And just at some point, do you still hear me well? Because I see my
Yep.
earphone is, yeah, good.
You're live.
So what happened is that people got so hyped to an extent that even VC funds started to kind of outbid each other with these questions of how millions of community you have on your Telegram chat. Hey, come on! Like everyone knew it's not like a real community. Like lots of that were bots. Just I'm being bold about it, and making money out of reselling. It's like it is what it is, but it's
Yeah.
not a sustainable business model. And what I'm proposing and talking about is, as a game builder, jumping into PvP opportunity is where you make like a real cash, and not a short term, a long term, and you can build the entire business out of it. Start with one game, another game, and just track how skills.com perform. More than $100 million of revenues per year. So this is something that can be really significant. But just wanted to make a distinction between
Yeah.
what happened with
Fair
idlers
enough,
and
Tom. I think there is a similarity again to early Facebook gaming there, though, too, and
Mhm.
that's one of the business models that did emerge at the time was what then eventually evolved into, for better or worse, the modern ad networks on social media, which is a lot of
Yeah,
the early games that launched on Facebook monetized via essentially running install networks. And it was largely install networks to other games that had heard
yeah,
how much money you could make on a Facebook game. I guess the question with Telegram, now in Facebook, it was fairly sustainable, though. People were playing these games, they would do an install and stick with it. Eventually, Facebook really imploded their own audience by introducing Facebook credits and locking it down. And maybe there's some bit of a story here to be applied to Telegram gaming as well. We should return to sort of the exclusivities and things like that. But in Facebook gaming, it was a very hot platform. The company Zynga was basically made on top of Facebook. A lot of the revenue they
yeah,
generated was like install networks, as well as of course in-app
yeah.
purchases
What's
was the
what's coming,
primary
John?
vehicle.
I think what's coming, John, is the new generation of Zyngas. That's basically the
Mhm.
thing. Like what's coming. That's it, right? And these model that you mentioned is possible on Telegram, and it's gonna happen. The more professional players will jump in. So that's going to happen. I can even see a future where, hey, this ad-based monetization model is actually pouring people to skill games for the sake of
Mhm.
getting them familiar with this opportunity to create the tournaments that are then driving the real revenue within the game. That might be combined. Who knows? But obviously, there are already ad networks on Telegram. It's just a matter
Mhm.
of how professional they are, how well they can target the audiences, what are the results, what are the KPIs, what are the click-through rates, etc., etc. So I'm pretty sure that is going to get into the direction where it's going to be more and more and more reliable for more and more credible people, builders. I mean here. And yeah, this is a direction that is not like competitive gaming is totally not excluding the growth of ad networks around Telegram. That's for sure.
What I'm hearing you kind of say, though, is that unless you were one of those lucky few that generated a big community of your own that you could then install to, you kind of missed that market
Yes.
window already. Like you're
Yeah.
not going to create a game that makes money from doing installs,
Yeah.
not at the
That's true.
same scale as those early guys. You need to actually find the more sustainable business model. I think install networks will work when you can actually prove the ROI on them, which is what ended up happening in a lot of social, and then ultimately mobile gaming became a very performance-driven network that has a lot of anti-bot protection. But you're saying that competitive gaming is one of the categories of monetization that could emerge in this environment because of the inherent advantages that Telegram, blockchain gaming, Web3 generally has in that market, where maybe it becomes a center of gravity for monetization. Am I
Sure,
kind of
that's what I'm
reading?
saying. I see a cool question here. If I may read it, exactly how is PvP driving all the profits? Most gamers I know aren't even interested in PvP. Can I comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
That's what
please
we
Yeah,
do.
do.
That's why you're here.
yeah, yeah, cool. So, when I ask you about the question like, have you ever played a poker? It's not a good like the type of a game, but it's the game at least everyone plays. And most of the people say, "I just try it in the room full of people," and like there's a lot of hand raise. And then I asked a similar question: have you ever tried to play poker with your friends with some sort of stakes that you generate off chain, let's say? And again, like most of them say, yeah, we did it. And then I always observe and say, like, guys, you know the difference about the engagement between being financially involved in the gameplay and just playing the game. And that's like a major difference. And you know it if you at least once played poker with your friends. So that's one thing. So if you think of if there are gamers that are so interested in esports and that's how they define PvP, oh well, maybe in an environment that there's not so many gamers of that kind. But if I were to ask you, like maybe you played like Flappy Bird back then, 2014, right? If I were to tell you that, hey, now Flappy Bird is available on Telegram with the PvP mode, so that you can challenge your friends and you can have fun. And what happened back then, people were screenshotting, their results to say, oh, how many pipes did you jump through? And oh, 3 and I 10, whatsoever, right? If I were to tell you that such example now exists in the reality of Telegram, of blockchain, and it's enabling, the competition with money involved, almost like in a poker room, so to say, and I'm pretty sure that you will find like 20 people immediately wanting to jump in. And I know it by heart because it's happening. We have these tournaments, all sorts of games, and just Flappy Bird is just an example. I'm giving that not for without the reason. I can see that Flappy Bird is out there already on Telegram. There might be some plans potentially out there in the future. But this is the thing, right? This is my sort of response. And what profits do they bring? Well, any point in time you can jump in and win the prize, the reward that is out there if you're a top scorer of the leaderboard. And then as a tournament organizers, you can get a percentage of the prize pool within your tournament that you're hosting. So it's a profit opportunity for everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Loma, for your question. I guess what I'd add to it is PvP can mean a lot of things in gaming. So sometimes when you say PvP specifically around things like a massively multiplayer online game, you think of like, hey, you want to play the game and just adventure and have fun, and then some guy comes along and like ganks you, and like it's really inconvenient because you're needing to do a corpse run, or in the earlier, even more hardcore game, maybe you drop all your items and they're robbing you. Like that's kind of the RuneScape experience. Like, so that is a form of PvP for sure. Another would be like Call of Duty, where if you're not in story mode, you're playing with other people. That's an example. But you, Tom, you were mentioning poker. Poker is a PvP game, but so are lots of other. I mean, almost all games prior to digital games were PvP, right? They were all competitive games in one way or another. Like
Yeah.
Scrabble is a PvP game, for example. Like
Yeah.
not typically played for stakes, but certainly there's a winner or a loser in the game. Like almost all board games you can imagine are all PvP. So I challenge the premise of the question a little bit in that so many games are inherently about competition between players. It really is with the advent of digital gaming that you also have the cooperative modes, which is actually the newer thing in gaming, where you just are helping each other and going through a story. And those things are not mutually exclusive. You can now, with digital gaming, have both at once and experience different modes of play. I think PvP, where people don't like it, is where PvP is forced upon you in a game experience where you thought you were going to be playing something story mode or cooperative, and then you get surprised with a PvP aspect
for sure.
that wasn't that wasn't welcome to you at the time. So that's something where I think you have to be careful as a game designer to incorporate that in. But PvP is kind of like all games, and there's different ways you can incorporate everything from a leaderboard to competitive tournaments. Like this is something we do at Beamable on our platform is we try to counsel game developers to think in terms of ways of adding more engagement to the game. And there's very light mechanisms for driving social engagement and lighthearted competition without that feeling of like visceral adrenaline that not every gamer wants to get out of a gaming experience, where it's just fun and it's more about discovering ways to play the game and show off what you're doing in the game to other people.
True.
Tom, let's return again to Telegram though. So the exclusivity thing, we gotta kind of have a focused conversation on this.
Yeah.
So I forget exactly when. A few weeks back, Telegram kind of surprised everyone, saying, "Okay, if you want to launch a game on Telegram, you're now going to have to be on Ton." And this really, I know specific game developers who were like, it threw even like their fundraising process into the lurch. Suddenly they had to press
Yeah.
pause
Yeah.
and figure it out all over again. Like, what's your thoughts on this permissioned,
A
I'm going to say,
permission
kind of
approach.
anti
Yeah.
Web3 approach to blockchain gaming that they're now requiring?
Yeah, so it's been a story between the relationship behind Telegram and Ton. For the record, it's like officially said like strategic collaboration here and there. Um, and many people as builders, they saw like way bigger opportunity in Telegram being a distribution channel for their services rather than Ton as a blockchain of its own, right? The Ton needs to get polished, get matured with multiple different use cases applied there. Looping back a little bit for a while to the clickers, what they did and contributed, they stress test the infrastructure by a lot, which is great contribution to the ecosystem. Getting back on track to the exclusivity, at some point, it led to the situation where builders from the other chains were actually sourcing, like users slash players liquidity through Telegram and to their chains. Is I saw the cases where multiple different chains and their grants programs were receiving and actually approving applications where builders were building stuff on Telegram and they were basically connecting other chains and ton within these mini apps, and that's what was claimed as a marketing tools whatsoever, right? So that's I understand that angle of claiming these exclusivity. That makes sense. So that's one thing. Then the other thing is, you want to keep the community of Ton happy, so to say, not being robbed in a way, right? So okay, let's have enforcement of more people building on Ton if they want to be on Telegram. That should theoretically throw a value or get value back to the Ton ecosystem. But when you look at it from the broader perspective, it's always like the judgment of, is it better to have like a way bigger cake and get a piece out of that cake, or do you want to have a cake only for your own and growing to some seller, the selling story, so to say? So it's like really depends on the approach. And then what happened next is they started to announce these different cross-chain collaboration, like the recent one with Layer Zero. So definitely, it looks like the cross-chain liquidity should be there, and that's what they're after, right? It looks to me as it's more leaning towards the DeFi use cases, right? It's not helping too much with gaming, I guess, but I'm not even sure if this decision will be something that will last forever. Is it temporary? No idea. Like, my personal stand, if you ask me, I would rather prefer to enable, these experiences using also other chains over Telegram, maybe with some value loop to the Ton ecosystem. I would be creative so that, Ton would get some value out of it as a chain, even though the other transactions will be processed on other chains. I would be thinking of it somehow this way. I'm not talking about
hey, I know how to implement it technically, but that would be my direction of thinking. So we'll still see if there's going to be any development around it or not. But for the time being, that's the status quo that we have.
It's the dilemma that a lot of these platforms have had, which is how do they get a piece of the action to make it worthwhile for them. So the proven model is take 30% of all the revenue passing through. That's mobile platforms, that's Steam, that's Facebook credits. Now the interesting thing with Facebook is that they were kind of first market with that idea. Facebook credits was the first of the 30% take rate platforms, and virtually overnight they destroyed the entire ecosystem for Facebook gaming. Now there are other things at play, like they went from this totally unregulated ecosystem of spam, which was benefiting the games, but probably was definitely breaking Facebook. So cannot blame Zuckerberg for fix that and kind of preserve the integrity of the platform. But you know, it came to mobile install network essentially.
When you compare the Facebook and Telegram, like there is a revenue model behind Telegram. There is like premium, Telegram Premium, and some other couple of add-ons here and there. So the more people you adopt and the more you push through the funnel, so that they buy premium account on Telegram, you generate revenue. That's one thing. And when you look at Ton as a chain, they generate revenue out of transactions, and they should focus on builders so that they build applications and infrastructures that facilitate that transactioning on the chain. And then using a distribution channel to attract builders and to attract users and users that are generating the transactions. This is a perfect scenario as long as we are knowing our business models well. And for that to happen, you need to create an opportunity for builders to make money as well. Like, as an example, our infra is getting a cut out of the price pools, right? So if all of a sudden, I don't know, Telegram sits on the cut of the price pools that we have, it kills the entire business, right? So it's like, it's not the way to go in a sustainable environment, I would say.
So Quick Games is commenting here with something similar to what you were saying earlier, Tom, about other chains stealing liquidity over and moving people over to Base or Solana or other chains. What Quick Games is kind of pointing to here is that maybe what the complaint wasn't just coming from top-down Telegram teams laying down the law. He's saying this was coming from developers complaining about the situation for them.
Yeah, I mean, I empathize, sir, with that. I absolutely understand. It's just the thing on how to incentivize builders on Ton more than others without refraining from, without restricting the other chains to be applied on Telegram. So that would be my way of thinking. But I understand getting the competition from other chains were basically killing the business on the side of Ton devs. I understand that. I understand that reasoning 100%.
I can see the varying perspectives here, and I'm also very sympathetic to the idea of like, what does it take to build a sustainable ecosystem, which I think is what they want to do. I have seen a general trend towards some chains kind of implementing almost like console-like strategies where they're trying to build more lock-in to their system. We've been talking about Telegram, but like Immutable, for example, I've seen the same thing where like Immutable, you got to use their user ID system.
Yeah,
it's all, and you got to use their SDKs, and they're kind of outright hostile to SDKs for any kind of technology that comes out of there. Because I'm curious if you've seen the same thing, actually, as a developer, Tom. Like we have at Beamable, like they really want people to use their own SDKs, even for building games, even if they're terribly inefficient. So it's a hard path to be on for some of these platforms because it forces them to have to be all things to all people, which is very contrary to the idea of not only the permissionlessness of Web3, but the composability. Like you're throwing composability out the window and saying, well, we'll just give you everything. Right. But already we have a Microsoft and a Steam and those can't give you absolutely everything. Like they have even benefited from their version of composability and open SDKs and things like that. But like, what's your thoughts on this this push and pull between permissionlessness, composability, the openness that was the early mantra of Web3 versus more of like the business imperative to lock in people, preserve and retain profits so that it can be reinvested?
Well, I should say it's not oftentimes that I have this particular question, which I enjoy even more for that reason. So I would say I'm a big fan of permissionless approach here, and I'm a big believer of the fact that if we do it permissionless, that's of its own that is a killing value proposition that can bring more builders. That's a very natural thing, right? Then in terms of composability, in general terms, yes, let's just support the composability, that it sparks the creativity of developers. They can connect it with multiple different other concepts and create an innovation. So in our case, well, we are saying, hey, this is the only type of monetization or the experience that can apply in a game. No, we say we are, as an infrastructure, empowering you to build this type of experience as a core experience with a proven monetization model, with a top level of security, with a fast speed of building this game, and with accessibility over Telegram. And if you want to add with other providers, maybe like NFTs to the game, some tokens whatsoever, you want to add some more layers of complexity, not a problem at all. So in that sense, we are composable, right? But there is like another angle that, well, we enforce using our SDK on these games built on Unity so far, because we're compatible with Unity, but we will be extending with other game engines. So if you are, for example, like building on Unity and other type of multiplayer solution, we need to replace it. And why is that? Because we are aware of how security is important as a paramount for all other things that happen within competitive gaming. You need to have a control as a provider of that kind of infra over the security to enable creation of new economic models and financial flows. Any type of providers of tournament platforms that are simply being like an escrow, it's so much vulnerable. It's the approach that is like easier to develop, but this is very short-lived, short-sighted, right? So we are not being composable to that extent that we allow other game like multiplayer entities to be applied, because this is part of our value proposition on the security side. So there needs to be like a common sense and kind of sense of what can be compromised and what shouldn't be. That's my take.
Got it. Tom, we're reaching the top of the hour, so I want to just bring it back to Telegram. And again, we're a game developer audience here. So, and this is even a question that's bigger than Web3, frankly. Like Web2 game developers can be on Telegram, right? Like Telegram is not actually just a crypto platform, although like all the crypto bros ended up on Telegram for reasons that will forever escape me. And that's how I ended up on Telegram. But I mean, it's a messaging platform. Anybody can use it. You don't have to know anything about crypto. It's perfectly fine messaging system. But it's now becoming a game platform and a game distribution platform. If you're a game developer, Web2 or Web3, what are the most important things you should know about that as a platform for launching and distributing your game? Because it is one of the newest ways to reach pretty large audiences.
Yeah. So like, first of all, it's estimated 1 billion monthly active users. So that's a large user base. That's what you need to understand. And second of all of these games that you can see, these are essentially browser-based games. There's no specific technology out there. It's just, think of it like, browser game embedded into the bot on Telegram. What I should say you should know is that as a developer, sorry to say that, but with Olympics, you don't need to know anything about Telegram bot development and anything about making it very specific game tailored to Telegram, because you just focus on the gameplay. That's what you love to do. You build it in Unity, and with our infra, you're having like all this blockchain component as an SDK part, abstracted away, nothing to worry about. Then also GameBot, you have it deployed automatically. You can extend it if you like, right? So the barrier of entry as a game developer onto Telegram gaming is reduced to an absolute minimum. Even you do have monetization templates that are designed on the level of infrastructure. More to that, we did it in a way that any upgrades in our infra, let's say like we are planning to add like fiat on-ramps. The very moment we do it, we add it on the infra level, this magical, we call it island, that is added on top of your game, that is enabling users to kind of interact with this competitive aspect of the game. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to design it, and don't need to upgrade it. We add fiat on ramping. It's getting added there. So we are making your life, your developer, like really extremely easy, right? So that's one thing. And then there are more and more publishers that are jumping in. So we will have support. There are existing ad-based platforms, so you can get some traffic out of it in a very traditional way. And again, what you emphasize, John, is like it's not only about Web3 games. You can design a game that is having like in our case, frankly speaking, like all of these games are having two modes that I mentioned: casual and competitive. So for casual games, no wallet is required. It's just a real Web2 game. You can train, you can invite your friends, you can have fun. So any game you build this way, it's casual. And then there's only like a switch onto the next level of entertainment. Wow, that's a slogan. The next level of entertainment, where there is a like different type of reward. It's more financial, but the wallet is required for now, because we are like developing that towards a complete wallet abstraction. And our goal is basically to empower entire gaming, both Web2, Web3 game developers and Web2 and Web3 gamers. So to make it one big, beautiful world. That's it.
All right. Well, thanks you so much, Tom, for that. So we've reached the top of the hour. If you're a game developer of any kind, Web2, Web3 doesn't matter. Kind of like Beamable, by the way. We support Web2 and Web3 game developers. If you need an online game, that's what we do. We help you build your backend really, really easily, built into the game engines that you love, like Unity and Unreal. But Telegram could be the new distribution platform for you, 1 billion MAU. So it is not to be ignored. Definitely learn about it if you don't know about it already. If you're a Web3 game developer, you probably have already heard about it because your friends are talking about it. If you haven't done the deep dive yet, this is your opportunity to do so. I hope you learned a lot from this episode. Thanks for spending the last hour with us. We've got a great studio audience today online across multiple platforms: X, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Tom, you're welcome to join us anytime. You're so knowledgeable about all these aspects of Web3 game development and game development generally. Would love to have you back anytime on the channel. But for now,
pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. Tomorrow we'll be back for the Web2 game talk at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We've got Raf Koster. He is a legend in MMO game development. So he's going to talk about everything from Ultima Online through Star Wars Galaxies to his latest game project. And then next week we'll be broadcasting live from ETH Denver. So don't miss that, because I'm going to be hanging out with some of my friends in the Web3 gaming ecosystem right in Denver. Until then, thanks everybody, and build those games.